Good morning and thank you for joining us. I am Alero Edu and this is Sunrise.
I am Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome. Have you had your choco this morning?
No, I haven't because I had to come to work.
Oh.
Have you had yours?
Oh, yes, I have.
You had your cocoa?
No, choco, please. Choco.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm not that local, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's had a little sip this morning of that stuff that he takes.
You will have to explain what that is.
You didn't hear anything.
And I'm going to report you to Frank Mba, who is the police commissioner. You are guilty of, what's that word again?
Defamation of
character. No, is it character or character? All right, all these kinds of manifestations happen everywhere, especially when you go for, yes, and this is one thing that I would love to talk about this morning, Alero. And that is this whole NIN thing.
Oh dear, you had to go there.
I have.
It's still causing people a lot of headache.
Okay, I read an article attributed to the president of Alton, the body of Association of Telecom Service Providers in Nigeria. Segun Adebayo, I think. And he was saying something like, look, telcos have collected X number of data from so many people and did a lot of calculation. But the summary was that at this point, as at the time that interview was done, it's just a few days ago, 21 million SIMs were yet to be matched with any national identity number.
Oh dear.
How many days do we have to go before it is February 9?
21 million.
21 million numbers are yet to be. And that is for those who have registered lines. And he also said something interesting. He said it's an average of 3 to 4 numbers per
person.
Line.
Yes.
Per identity.
Yeah.
So you have 3 numbers or 4 numbers, you merge all to one national identity number. That's the kind of thing that they have done. They have collected something in the region of 140-something million SIMs, all merged into some 47.8 or thereabout phone numbers. Million people. Unique identities. But that there are 21 million lines, 21 million lines that are yet to be connected to any national identity number. Now that gap, today is what? 23?
20, yes.
Now, how many days do we have before
the deadline?
The deadline. We're talking about, say, maybe about 2-3 weeks tops.
Yeah.
Now, with what we have now, and that's just for those who have phone numbers. There are a very, very good number of Nigerians who do not have phones.
Yeah.
Let that also be clear. Because even though NCC is saying we have something in the region of 207 million lines, that's what the NCC is saying, and they have been able to work with 143 or thereabout lines. Now, 21 million people are yet to be merged with any NIN, and many of them are as worried and as concerned and as petrified as we speak that they do not have NINs connected.
At their inability to actually be able to register at NIMSI.
Exactly. So the question in my head is, how much of a brainer is this in the age of technology?
No brainer.
You ask me to download a form. I fill the form. And I'm supposed to bring that form to
your
office. Physical location.
Why can't I click submit?
And submit as other, things that we do.
Yeah.
It raises a lot of questions as to, is it the inability? Is it a lack of capacity? Or is there something we're not hearing? Alero, you're laughing. I'm offended right now.
Oh.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm pleased to meet you.
I do apologize, but you know how it is in Nigeria. When you were saying this thing, I was thinking, because I got my NIN as far back as 2014. And I'm saying to myself, if government had said to us, okay, they're compiling a list of all Nigerians so that when a time comes to distribute money, they will be able to have everybody's name and location somewhere so that they can find us to give us the 5,000 naira or whatever that they want to give to every citizen. If government had said that, everybody would have had their NIN as at 2012. Forget 2014.
Because I think I got mine in 2005 or thereabout, or 2007, 2008.
Oh, so if not for this SIM card deadline, people will not be rushing to get their NIN. And it looks like even government's campaign about what the NIN is needed for did not hit home. Because people are wondering, why do they need this thing? Every country needs to know who is in their country, how many citizens they have, so that they can plan. People don't understand all this, and that is why they're feeling like they're being harassed, and they have to go and be climbing on gates and things to get into NIMSI office to register, because now they've been told that it's going to be linked to their SIM cards. But there's more to it than all of that.
Perhaps to underscore the fact that there could be more to it that we're not seeing. Now, people who are desperate are being, you want to talk to one official somewhere who can influence something, I'll make a call. Okay, they say it's 5,000 naira. Now, you get that 5,000 naira from them, from the person who wants to...
Did we pay when we got ours earlier?
Pay what? I don't remember paying.
I don't remember paying either.
It's not supposed to be paid for.
I don't remember.
It's part of the things that I'm wondering, why in the universe is the federal government, the NIMSI, not coming out to talk to people about these things? Where in the universe, and I think you mentioned this in a few weeks ago, where is the National Orientation Agency in all of this? Because this is a national program. We are talking about this. So back to the 5,000 naira, you pay 5,000 naira, and guess what happens? You go to the office, you fill a form, and you go back.
You get an appointment.
An appointment.
Yeah.
Isn't that the booking system that the federal government was talking about? So the federal government now, it would seem like the booking system now is being monetized by people who have the privilege of being in office. Now, all of these things are saying, what exactly are we talking about here? Maybe as we go on in the conversations that we're having today, promoting good governance, one of our topics, maybe we'll be able to get there, because government, the federal government of Nigeria has been talking about e-governance, I don't know how many regimes ago, all right? And
oh my God, that was more than 10 years ago.
So we've been talking about e-governance. What in the universe is e-governance? Isn't it electronic governance? And so if we have been talking about that, does that mean that we have people within the government, in the systems, in the civil service, who are not e-compliant?
Who understand what whatever is, and they're not putting it to use to make the lives of Nigerians easier.
That's
the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely. We need education. People need information. People need to know that, there is sincerity in governance. People need confidence. That confidence in government has depleted over the years. And with this kind of things that we are having at a time when the Federal Ministry of Health is saying, keep social distance, observe non-pharmaceutical interventions, because we have a pandemic on our hands, that's the time another agency of the same federal government is saying, go out, get your NIN, or your lines are going to be blocked. And in how many months from now, the JAMB is going to be out. No NIN, no JAMB.
The plot thickens. And to put more bite to this, in these days of coronavirus and everything, nobody really wants to go out and be where there are lots of people. And government, who is screaming, social distance, wash your hands, sanitizer, they should be the ones looking for ways to prevent gatherings. Even to go shopping nowadays, my dear, you send in your list, the shopper or whoever organizes a courier service that will deliver your goods to you in your house, including your vegetables, so that you don't have to leave your house.
All in the name of doing what government is recommending in your own interest.
Stay at home.
Federal government, state governments are saying there shouldn't be a gathering of more than 50 people or 20 people at any given place.
I see those videos that you all stream on Sunrise Daily every day.
It's horrendous.
It's thousands of people all standing on top of each other at NIMSI office.
So we need to hear government more articulately. We need to know exactly what government is intending with all of these. Are there some conspiracies that or is this some way of certain agencies validating? Look, I don't know, there is a governor in Nigeria who is saying all of these things is a hoax. Yes.
All of this COVID-19 thing. Yes. We heard him loud and clear. And I was wondering.
Exactly. And that's someone who
Someone pinch me, I'm dreaming. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. But he actually did.
Well, you look for it on YouTube, you'll find it.
He actually said it.
So it would look to people, all kinds of people will come up with all kinds of things if we continue to have this policy discordance.
Misinformation, disinformation, all of it in one basket.
And there is no agency of government speaking articulately.
Speaking clearly.
I'm done.
Well, it is still sanitizer, wash your hands, use your face mask, and if you don't have to go out, don't go out.
So still avoid men, embrace women.
Yes. And
avoid touching your mouth, eyes and nose as men.
Okay.
Embrace women, wash your hands, observe social distancing, maintain all those things.
Okay.
Talk to women. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Embrace women. Okay. All right. Well, COVID-19 is still very much with us. Sincerely. And schools resumed on Monday, but we will be hearing more about that in the course of the program. But like we said, it is still, please stay safe. Now let's get the show on the road. On Monday, during a virtual support mission and signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Committee of Heads of State and Government participating in the African Peer Preview Mechanism in Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari reiterated Nigeria's commitment to promoting good governance and democracy in Africa. Wow. Okay. To look at this commitment with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome our three guests who are joining us via Zoom. Alero Aida Otobo. We always seem to be having Aleros these days.
Yeah.
And Alero is Chief Executive Officer, School of Politics, Policy and Governance. Hello, Alero.
Hello, my namesake. How are you?
Good, thank you. We also have Ezekiel Etuk, our friend who doesn't want to come to Lagos anymore because he's got Zoom now. Founder, Nigeria First. And we also have...
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
We also have David Dada, who is an IT consultant who's joining us from Ikeja. Oh, by the way, Mr. Yoyetuko is joining us from Uyo, all the way. And Mr. Dada from Ikeja. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Pardon me for being partial. I'm going to start with my namesake.
Who is a female, by the way. So ladies first. We understand.
Thank you. I can go on.
No, it's perfectly in order. The gentlemen are also gentlemen as well, so you have the floor.
What do you make about this commitment by the president in light of all the things going on in Nigeria?
When I read about it, I must confess, I sniggered, I rolled my eyes, and I thought, here we go again. And why? Because I think it's time to align what we say with what we actually do as leadership and as followership. There's such a misalignment that when you hear words like what our president uttered, you can't help but wonder whether we are in the same country. I quote, what did he say? He said that, as we are all aware, that's how he started. The government of Nigeria has consistently supported the strengthening of democracy and good governance throughout the African continent, including under the umbrella of the African Peer Review Mechanism. Keywords, strengthening of democracy and good governance. When we reflect and look at what has been happening in our nation over the last 1 year and more, can we really say that our democracy and good governance is working? Is it strengthened? Does our nation reflect the parameters of good governance? And if we look at what those parameters are, I think we may find a lot of us saying, not quite. If you look at some of it, it's how do we measure public institutions, how they conduct their public affairs and manage public resources? How are we managing public resources? And if we're to look at what has happened over the last 6-7 months, with even the palliatives, those that were kept in storehouses when Nigerians were suffering and they were hungry, is that good management of public resources? And it was in every single geopolitical zone, northwest, east. So there was no exception. And so, if you ask me, I'm a bit jaded. I would like to see good governance in the real sense of the word. And I've been disappointed. And I think that's why I'm involved in some of the things that I'm doing right now, because I'm tired of hoping someone else will do it. I think it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and take our nation and shape it into what we want to see. That's my answer.
Okay. Ezekiel, what are your thoughts? Are you on the same page with Alera?
I think if you have two people in the same room and the two people are speaking two different languages, the problem would be having to understand that they are singing from two different song sheets, two different songs. You graciously got me on this program. If my intention was to be on channels, I would have achieved my aim. But you know that you asked me to come here to communicate some things to the larger world because you believe I have some things to communicate. So if there isn't that understanding between the two of us, I'll probably just come here and be doing a lot of smiling and looking good and adjusting myself because I came here to appear on television, on channels, and here I am on channels. So I've achieved my aim. Now, the people that get into government, what is their motivation? Why do they get in there in the first instance? Are they there to serve the people? Are they there to enrich themselves? Are they there for what? It is what brings them into office that determines them, assuming that they are very successful. You see, when you listen to Mr. President, the first question you ask him is that exactly what is his understanding of government, the essence of government, and governance. How many people have taken time to read chapter 2, section 14, subsection 2B of the Constitution that says that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government? How many governors, how many senators, how many House of Reps members, how many of our legislators are there for the security and welfare of the people as their primary motivation for seeking public office? There's a complete divide between what we are expecting as citizens and what brought people into politics in the first instance. Why would I sell my house, mortgage my future, bring out as much as 1 billion naira to be a senator so that I can go and serve the people? That just doesn't make sense. I think, like my sister Alero said, the time has come for those of us that God has blessed with the capacity to think, and we are not a few, to come and say what my sister Alero has just said. I'm tired of waiting for others to do it. Let me come and do it. We must define that it and know that we are walking in the same direction and singing the same song sheets. I think, with all due respect, that Mr. President and I are not looking at things in the same way. If not so, nobody will say that we are doing the best with respect to governance in this country. I beg to differ, please.
Okay, Mr. Dada, all of this is talking about promoting good governance in Nigeria. And in this age and time, from what we know, what you probably know as well, the population of Nigeria is made up of an average 70% young Nigerians. 70% of us are between ages 16 and 35 or 45 thereabout. Talking about good governance, how do you think good governance, or that this larger population of Nigerians can feel good governance better, knowing the things that they know and the capacities that they have?
So much, Ayo. Thank you for having me on this show this morning. Really appreciate that. I'll start by just giving you my personal opinion about what we have experienced, what I have experienced as a young person growing up in Nigeria, expectations as a young person, and what we get to see, from government. In 1999, when we were transiting into this democratic rule, it was my first time of experiencing a democratic rule. We were so excited. We were looking forward to, as they told us, Nigeria will become like London in 10 years. There will be infrastructure, development will be evenly distributed across the country and all of that. So we were very expectant. This was in 1999. I was barely 20 years old, then. Now, it's been 21 years after, and I dare say that things have been worse in some cases than what they were in 1999. Healthcare system has gone down compared to what we had in 1999. Education is obviously in tatters compared to what we had in 1999. Power is even, don't just go there. Yeah, we've made some progress, but the bulk of the things that were promised, that we looked up to as young people, hoping to see a better country. And 20 years of my life has gone down into that, and we don't have anything to celebrate, really. Yes, like I said, we made some progress, but there is a bit of bitterness in my soul when I look at my country, and a country like Rwanda, for instance, because I know we have what it would take. As a young person, I know what we have, what we possess to turn the country around, because we can leapfrog on a lot of things. But somehow, there is a disparity between the reality of who we are as a country and where we are as a nation, and the people leading us. They don't seem to see what the real things are. So we're talking about, things of the 21st century. I mean, the issue of namesake and all of that just makes you want to puke when you really analyze all of these things. Come on, we're better than this as a nation. We're better than this as a people.
Yeah, David, we'll come to some of those things that you have raised now, but let's go. Let me take this up with Alero. Madam, as CEO of a School of Politics, Policy and Governance, the question that comes to my mind is, what is wrong or right with our leadership recruitment system?
Leadership recruitment system. Let me tell you a little story that will help us put everything in context. If I own a shop, a store, and I want to hire a good quality someone who will serve in my store and will provide good customer service, what do? 1, I'll put out an advert. 2, I'll review all the applications that I get. I'll interview them. 3, then I'll do what? Select the best that I think will deliver on the mandate and the responsibility I'm going to give her. I'll make sure that while she works, the first 3 months, I will assess her, I will evaluate her, and I will confirm her appointment, right? Until she performs to the level and delivers the quality of service that I want her to deliver. This is for my sales girl or sales boy in my shop. I'm paying attention. I'm recruiting the best. Now let's come to politics. How do we recruit the politicians that decide to run for office? The truth is that anyone can get up and say, I'm running for office. We're not sure of their track record. We don't know whether they are qualified. So someone saying, I want to be a doctor. Have you done 5 years medicine? Have you been to medical school? No, that doesn't matter. Don't worry, I'm a really good doctor. On what basis? Who has certified you as a good doctor? That's what we're doing with our political system in Nigeria. The problem of leadership is the way we're recruiting our leaders and the way we are preparing our leaders. Right now, if you look at, for example, the United Kingdom, to become a member of parliament, there is a body that interviews and evaluates those who want to run for office before they step up and say, I want to be a member of parliament. And if you don't go through the selection system, if you don't go through the selection process and get through, you can't run and say you want to be a member of parliament. In Nigeria, we have to stop fooling ourselves that anyone can be a minister, anyone can be a senator, anybody can be a member of House of Rep, even anybody can be a local government chairman. That's not true. It's a lie. And until we stop believing that lie and we begin to do what other nations do that want to be great, because I want Nigeria to be great, it is time for us to put together that selection process. And I'm sorry, our president or whoever, you can't be in this day and age, 21st century, you can be SS3 and run for office? No. There's too much at stake. There's too much information out there. The knowledge needed to govern a nation, the complexity of any nation like Nigeria, you better have the knowledge, the skills, the values, and the understanding. And that is why the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance was established. We want to start in our own way. To see people want to run for office, come and get trained. Come and be an excellent politician. Come and get the right mindset. So we started with mindset reorientation. And that's why I'm very pleased that my brother mentioned Ezekiel. I'm so glad that you mentioned what you did right at the beginning. That you need, why are you running for office and you're spending over $1 billion? Why? If you want to serve, you're chosen and you prepare yourself. I've said many times, I've served 4 ministers. And honestly, the difference in quality is like night and day. Some are totally clueless, I'm sorry. And I'm not going to tell you when I serve because then you might put it together. And others are exceptional. We shouldn't have such disparities. We need to elevate our criteria for selection. We need to elevate the qualities that we require for our leaders. We must be able to define who can rule, who can govern, who can serve Nigerians. And right now, we're not doing it very well. Poor recruitment, poor selection, poor training, poor equipping. And you know what? Like I said before, if I hire you, I'm going to evaluate your performance over 3-6 months if I confirm your appointment. We are not evaluating. And citizens are not allowed. And if you evaluate, you are deemed to be against government.
Pardon me. I would like to stay with Alera for a bit regarding some of the things that she said. You said it's a lie that anybody can go into politics and become a leader. But that is the fact of our lives at the moment. That is what is going on now. As long as you have SS3, you can vie for any office. So, is there anything that your school is doing to try and cause the change which will make that become a lie, as you have said?
Yes. If I was going to answer you, allow me to answer you in 3 ways. The first is what we are doing. To come into the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance, there's an application form you're going to fill and it's thorough. A personal statement that you're going to write. You have to show your track record. You have to demonstrate excellence. You have to demonstrate performance. So I have to have the evidence, letters of recommendation, the whole works is there. And I'm pleased to see that yesterday was the closing date and we have over 700 applications. We are thrilled and there's some amazing people that want to come to the school. So that's the first answer I'm going to give, that we can put a process in place. Just as we have a process of going to medical school, going to law school, there is a process. Another one is that we need to start paying attention to our educational system. I've been in education for a while. After leaving banking, I went into the education world. And I was alarmed at the quality of our teachers. There are many good teachers, but honestly, in many states, you will not believe, and we've done tests. The organization I was working with carried out tests. Many teachers could not pass some of those tests that primary 6 students were expected to pass. This was about 10 years ago. But have things changed? I would like to say no. Like Muyiwa said, I think education is still in the state of crisis. So what would I then suggest or recommend that we do? We have to look at our curriculum, and it's time to put in character education. There are nations that have in their curriculum character education. It's time to put it, we have civics, but we're not paying enough attention to raising patriots in our nation and raising leaders that will serve. And we learn service from school. Primary school is where you learn how to serve. Secondary school is where you learn how to serve. And you learn not just reading and writing. So we need to take a second look at our curriculum and not keep tweaking it, but to completely revamp it, make it 21st century compliant, as well as a curriculum that raises nation builders, make people who love their nation, want to serve their nation, and want to make a difference. Right now, that is a big missing piece.
Okay.
In our education.
Thank you, Alero. Gentlemen, do stand by. We'll just take a short break and then we'll bring the conversation to you. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Ezekiel, Nigeria followed closely what happened in Uganda not too long ago, not more than 2 weeks ago. And I don't recall that Nigeria made any comment. And now we're coming out to say that we're fighting for democracy in Africa and we are committed. I mean, that word that the president used, we're committed to upholding the ideals of democracy all over Africa. Do you recall us making any comment about what happened in Uganda regarding a president who has been in power for 35 years?
You know, there is a difference, very marked difference between what you say while you are in office and who you are and what you want when you are in office. There's a marked difference between the two, and we need to understand that. When we listen to our leaders, we are not listening to their heart. We are listening to the scripts that have been written for them. I'll tell you a little story. When architect Obon Victor Atta left as governor and he was to attend a certain event, I was very unhappy with him. I said, sir, you can't attend this event and everything because I'm a son to him, not just like a son. I'm his son. So we went back and forth and he said, okay, you know what? I'm going to attend this event. But what you do for me, write my speech for me. When you bring it, I'll look at it. I wrote the speech. I gave it to him. He looked at it and said, it makes a lot of sense. I like the points you've made. I'll take the points. But let me put it in my language in a way that reflects me talking. And I was so happy, so impressed. Listen to the speeches of our leaders. I don't want to be specific. You realize that there's a very terrible disconnect between the words that come from them and the look on their faces, because they are not reading what they want to say. They are reading what they should say so that they will be politically correct. I'll still come back to this, no matter the analysis that we do. The time has come when we, the privileged people, the elite, need to know that the political system is going to ruin us, is going to do us harm. If we expect that, I think it was Dr. Maupai that said this. He said, if you put sugar or honey in somebody's mouth and the person spits it out, the first thing is that guy has diabetes. Just don't think twice about it, he has a problem. What do I mean? These people who know that under proper profiling, they have no chance whatsoever getting into office. You want those people to come and set up the criteria for profiling office, seekers, and they know that where they're coming from, they can do second term, they can do third term, they would like to come back. And we want these same people to change the constitution so that leadership recruitment, look at what Sister Alero said, which is a sad, sad truth. For you to be the president of the Fed, look, some weeks back, I recruited estate surveyors for my company. And I can't even take OND. And you are telling me the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria can have school set. I mean, this is preposterous. This is outrageous. This is, I don't know the words to use. And yet our senators are sitting pretty. getting humongous amount of money. I don't know how many senators are saying, if I perish, I perish. The time has come when the right thing has to be done in this country. So I'm not really bothered about what they said about Uganda and all those things, because that is politics. That is being politically expedient. And it's not what they believe. It's not what they stand for. What they stand for is power. And they really saw this man as being man who understands power. That's why Jonathan didn't understand power. How could he give up power? No, Bobby Wine was just, they shut down the internet. Bobby Wine was restricted. They did what they got to do. They got back to power. It's like, my guy, inside them is like, this guy understands it. I hope we, in our political system, we can learn and make sure that is done in 2023. We Nigerians, like Cisalero, this school of politics, policies, and governance, I want the COVID team, the way they responded to COVID, which is nothing compared to governance. Let them move into this school and take it across the whole country. Let us come 2023, have enlightened political system. It is possible.
All right, well, Mr. Dada, let me come back to you. In 2019, May 26, the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture put up a notice on their website, which is still there, by the way. And it was the Minister of Communications at the time, Dr. Adebayo Shitu, talking about e-governance, the e-governance platform, which was launched then. They called it it was actually chaired by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation today, Boss Mustafa. That committee was the chairman. He was the chairman, Presidential Council on E-Government. And part of the functions of that plan was to improve efficiency in the public service, block financial leakages, ensure transparency in government dealings, which would reduce corruption to the barest minimum and bring the government closer to the people. You wanted to talk about an example of public service delivery the other time, the National Identity Management Program of government, where we're supposed to get our names by February 9, or a good number of phone lines will be blocked. If we were to take an example of government, public service, or governance, and we were to apply e-governance, what have we missed? What opportunities have we missed? And what do you think we could have done better to improve lives and not create super spreader gatherings for COVID-19 like we have over the past few weeks?
All right, so most of the time, government will come up with this lofty ideas. Sometimes the intentions are right. Sometimes the intentions are good. However, the delivery has always been abysmal. I mean, and there is a gap between the concept, the idea, the intention, and the delivery. And that has to do with those who are managing the process. Just like Mr. Aitok said, so you want to deliver a tech project and you're asking someone who is qualified in another field to oversee that project. In all probability, they're going to mess up the project. And so we always have the case of putting round pegs in square holes, or square, pegs in round holes. So most of the time we don't get to the desired end until government, streamline their process of delivering whatever idea has been sold to them, or those that they generated themselves that are good. And then having, I normally tell people, why do tech projects fail? Because we don't have tech project managers. You don't have someone looking at the process from start to finish and say, look, these are the gaps I see in delivering this project, and these are the things we need to do to fix them. And here we just, mumble things together and just put everything together, let's just get there. Let's just get it done. It doesn't work like that. There are systems and there are ways that things have to be delivered. Now, you refer to the NIMSI thing, for instance. Now, I was so appalled when I saw, I'm not too sure now, but a top government official tweeting that people should download the form and then take the form physically, they fill it, and go submit the form physically at a center. And I'm like, who thinks like that? Who does that? I mean, you're asking me to download the form. What's wrong with me filling the form right there online and submit the form to wherever you want me to submit it? Why do I need to go cram myself in a space during a pandemic just to submit a form? I think there's a problem with the thinking process that.
At that point, Mr. Dada, if I can just quickly bring a perspective which you might want to throw some light on as well. Perhaps the thinking there was that because maybe the thinking is that you can't submit biometrics online. They have to take some biometric data of you, your fingerprints and stuff like that, so that they can match it to your data and put it in the system so there's no mistakes. What do you think? You're an IT person, you should be able to tell us.
Now, again, it shows you the mindset of the people who are behind, most of these policies and ideas and things that are trying to deliver. The intentions may be good, but the process to delivering them are just awful. All right. So we've been having BVN, data capture, and all that going on for years now. So we have banks who you can walk into those banks and get your biometrics done right now. And banks are scattered all over the federation. They're scattered all over the country. I don't think there is any village you get to in Nigeria now that you won't see a branch of a bank. All right. Now, these banks are equipped with all the facilities to take your biometrics. Why do we need to just cramp into just the NIMSI centers when we have banks all over the place that can take the same data from you? We have telcos. Telcos take your biometrics every day. All right. So you get into any telco office, they have the facility to do that. Why can't NIMSI give them access to the database? They take your biometric and they send it to them. Why do we need to stay with NIMSI? So you go to a Ikeja NIMSI office and you see thousands of people cramping together. Maybe one person, all you need is just one person infected with COVID and thousands of people will be infected in that location.
Mr. Dada, you may want to give us a little more. I would like to take Mr. Indira talk on this same thing, but you may want to give us a little more perspective on that because, I mean, you were part of a national e-government strategies development, sometime more than 10 years ago, you told me. And so perhaps there is some thinking of government that people are not aware of, which is making it difficult or unthinkable for us to take this trajectory that you are talking about. What could be the reason for this?
Now, most of the time, of course, there are points, there are certain facts that we may not see, being on the street. So most of the time when these people in government want to take decisions, there are quite a number of things they have to take a look at. However, from where we stand, we can see that there's a deficiency in the delivery process for this, for instance. So they said, I listened to the lady, whether I think maybe she's the publicity secretary or something on your channel. She talked about, cleaning up the database. She talked about giving access to people. They need to go through the process of giving access to people and all of that. Yes, that's good. That's great. But how long does it take for you to clean up the database? How long does it take for you to link people, give them access to the database? Now we're talking about the pandemic, all right? Certain things should be done with a sense of urgency. Certain things should be an emergency at this point. Priority should be given to a whole lot of things to make the process a lot seamless, all right? And a lot easier for the people to access. I think we're just putting many people at risk trying to get these things done. And technology by nature should make things easier, not more difficult. So if you're not getting it right, then you're making life difficult for people. And that is what we're saying here, that they're not getting this right. All right. And it's very simple. It's not rocket science. We're talking about database administration. We're talking about you. Okay, for instance, you want people to take biometrics, right? If you have a smartphone, there are apps that can take your biometrics and send. You can revalidate that by another process that will ensure that whatever has been sent to you is actually what it should be. So you break all of this down into models and you set out the stuff. But what they are doing right now, if they continue on this trajectory, is going to lead to disaster, I tell you.
Mr. Dada, Rashid Giwa says, have you tried calling the phone numbers listed on government agency websites and email addresses, railways, immigration, customs, NIMSI? They don't even answer the call. If it rings, they don't reply emails or tweets, and you are expecting e-compliance? That is the question that Rashid Giwa is asking. I would like your reaction to this, since you were in the system before.
Well, I wasn't in the system in that sense. I mean, we were just a consultants, and we were on the sideline trying to give advice and, a form of guide to what they were doing. Now, sometimes, look, the people that are driving these things, are not just, some of them have not bought into the idea. So someone is kept, at the table to answer calls. He already has a mindset that this is government work. I beg, I can't come and kill myself. So instead of resuming at 8 o'clock, for instance, the girl or the lady just walks in, maybe even a guy just walks in at about 10 a.m. and the phone rings, it picks one and, picks the other, and that's it. And then another one keeps coming and says, these people's wala are too much. The mindset is just horrible when it comes to some of these government parastatals. So you don't expect someone to pick your call. I mean, if they do, you are probably just one out of a million who is extra lucky. I mean, you should go and thank your star. Now, talking about emails, forget it. So you get to some offices, there's even no power, nothing to power their systems, or they don't have internet access. All right. And so many other mundane things that shouldn't even exist at all in the system. They're there to, hamper the service delivery that you and I should get. All right. So there's a whole lot of things that government need to do. They need to look inwards. Look at the people. I keep saying this. Who are the people managing the process? Who are the people that are handling the process? What is their level of training? What kind of skills do they have? All right. Until we put the right people to manage the process, we'll always get the kind of result we're getting.
Mr. Nyaitok, let's speak to the younger generation now. And I know that in a way, this is a constituency you are personally passionate about. We are talking about promoting good governance practice today. This plan of government, was launched in 2019. And it is not something that just started now. It's something that we've been talking about for years before we got to the point of launching that e-governance platform. Now, if we were to talk to a younger generation, given what we have now about good governance in Nigeria, I'd like us to be specific. So let's use this NIN project again as a guinea pig. From where you stand, what dimension of good governance or good governance service delivery have you seen? What are the gaps and what should we fill?
Yes, one of the biggest problems that I have working with the young people is that we, the adults, have grown and they have grown up with an extremely confused set of paradigms. They are on the social media and they see how government and governance works. They understand the concept of meritocracy, and then they come to their country, and if you're intelligent, you are a threat to government. If you are cerebral, you are a threat to government. So they don't know whether to apply hard work and diligence, and it will lead them to becoming nothing, or to become thugs, and overnight they are successful. Our young people are confused because the intelligent ones are not getting the jobs. Go to Central Bank, go to NNPC, go to FIRS, go and look at our recruitment processes. They don't encourage excellence. They don't encourage meritocracy. And I'm telling my young people to read, and they're like, sir, it seems you're not in tune with the times. The Times says get involved in politics, become a thug, and you are rewarded. It's such a hard thing, and I can't blame them. Let me please quickly just say something about the NIM and all those things, because it's very important to me. Number one is that if there is no corruption in the civil service, 90% of civil servants will not be able to feed their families and take care of the things that they've got to do. These are people that have children abroad, they have children in private schools and everything, and their salary cannot even pay the school fees of one of their children. So there must be corruption if they must survive. It's a thinking point where we should think of and know that for us to be able to change the paradigm, there's a lot of work we've got to do in foundation laying. So the NIM process, I don't know what extent it is designed to be confusing. If you have 100 blocks scattered to count, it can take you 20 minutes because as you count, they say, no, you've counted before you count. But if you arrange those blocks in 5-5 and in 2 lines and 10-10, you just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 times 2, 20 times 5, 100. It will take you seconds to count it. Why are we having this confusion with our NIM or national identity number? Number one, if you ask a Nigerian between your bank account and the identity number, which one is more important? He will say bank account. So Nigerians give honest information to bank account so that they can have their BVN. I asked a simple question.
Now.
I did a simple Google. Please, just a minute. I did a simple Google, and we have over 100 million active bank accounts of individuals. Why don't we start with that first?
We've just got to leave it here now, but I've got to just put in this before we go. School of Politics and Governance is needed to groom our political class. Leadership recruitment process must be upgraded. This is from HOB Bangbade. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Mrs. Alero, Aida Otobo, Mr. David Dada, and Mr. Ezekiel Echuku all joined us virtually. Thanks you for coming to share your insights with us this morning.
Thank you so much, Alero. Thank you.
Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do join us.
Well, just so you know, all schools across the country reopened on Monday, just in case you forgot, in case you didn't notice. This was after the closure of schools last year due to the coronavirus pandemic. So
no, they closed because it was holiday time. They closed for Christmas.
Among other things.
Okay.
So today we take a look at compliance level to COVID-19 protocols in the first week of resumption, even in the middle of the second wave of the virus, which has caused so many countries to close down like 2 or 3 times on and on like that. So to have this conversation this morning, we have a lady and a gentleman. Ladies first, they say, so I have to follow your footsteps. Adetola Salau is Senior Special Assistant on Education to the Governor of Lagos State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, thank you.
And we also have Chineye Mba-Uzoku, who is President, Institute of Software Practitioners of Nigeria, as a trustee, Education Reform Intervention Team, and member, Education and Manpower Thematic Work Group of the Federal Government's Agenda 2050. Great to know that we're
it's
thinking...
all education anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that we're even thinking that far, 2050.
2050.
Where the time they said that our population should be in the region of 400 million.
Well,
oh.
Remember in Babangida's time, it did restrict every family to 4 children.
Oh, that was...
Well, okay, let's say it advised.
Advised?
Yes, it advised.
The way China advised.
No, China didn't advise.
Oh, I'm just saying.
No, China made it a law.
Okay.
It is not a law in Nigeria.
Okay, so
it is just an advice. You do well to reduce your family to XYZ number.
And don't forget what Chief Obasanjo said when he was in government. I can choose to take your advice or not.
Even though you are my advisor.
And you get paid for that. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Sorry, guys.
So let's begin with you, Mr. Lau. 1 week after, what are the lessons we've learned?
Well, As we know, education systems across the world continue to grapple with decisions to reopen, have in-person learning at schools. The thing is, I must emphasize the fact that school closures have had adverse impacts on child health, education, development, and the overall economy. So that's something we should keep in mind while we're having this discussion. However, the lessons that we've learned so far from reopening is a lot of schools have made substantial moves around strict hygiene and safety protocols, which we hope they continue to follow as we get into the second week. And then we're also emphasizing classes that have terminal exams, making sure that they are a priority because they have terminal exams. So we have to make sure that we prepare and we work with those students. We also are making sure that we emphasize mitigating transmission by having off and on days for learning and shorter time periods for learning. And another thing that we've been really working on is also shortening the curriculum so that we can have more, more of an impact on what the students learn so that when they get to those exams, there's more understanding, more engagement by the time they get there.
Well, there are some things they don't learn in school, which is one part of the reason a good number of people advocated that there should be in-person learning. In-person learning. The students should go to the schools, and that is a social interaction. They don't learn those ones at home and all of that. But to get that done, we have to stave off the interactions as much as possible. Was there any monitoring done to see how compliant the students were in maintaining social distancing? Was that possible?
Yes, it's been possible. We have quality assurance units which have been going out to schools. We've also had teams, and including those of us at our ministry here at Lagos State, going out for surprise visits to various schools to check them out. And even when I was here earlier, you had mentioned a school. We're following up on those schools to find out what happened and how to change that break.
So what did you find out at that intervention, that checking that you said it, I didn't.
Yeah, some people have to make sure that more enforcement of those safety and hygiene protocols are followed. And the students also and the parents have to be also held accountable that, guys, this is what you need to do. You need to have your safety mask. Last term, when they first came back after the lockdown, we were giving them masks. But of course, that's not sustainable. So the students also have to take ownership by also, particularly those in secondary school, they are old enough to be able to have their masks ready in the night or in the morning and bring them to school. Students who don't have them have to be sent back.
Well, Mr. Mbanzoku, this is Lagos, okay? And that is the example of Lagos. That's the Lagos report, so to speak, of how we have spent the last 1 week. I don't know if we can say the same thing for them in Bauchi, in Borno, in Burning KB, and so many other interior areas, even in certain interior Lagos. I don't know. What's your take?
It's a very difficult question to answer, very difficult question, because the data, first of all, is gathering the data is still in progress. I know that there are efforts to gather that data, but it's not yet collated. I would say on the average, a few things that just come to mind. First of all, I think the children tend to be more compliant than the adults. The children don't go to nightclubs. They don't organize parties. They don't. They don't do those kind. They don't go to markets. So if you get them to the school, they will do what they're told to do if they're properly instructed and guided. If you gamify the process, if they understand that it's part of a game, you kind of turn it into a game for them that you have to keep your mask on. You find that the children teach each other. They will tell themselves, you're not wearing your mask, and it becomes a source of, there'll be lapses here and there, but I think on the average, children, the younger they are probably more compliant than the adults. So, and it's a big question. So then the shift then our concern should be more about, I think in some respects, and I mean it very seriously, that a lot of our concerns should be on the parents, on the adults. First of all, a child comes to school. So the government works to get the right kind of environment in the school. But who brings a child to school? How does a child come to school and how does the child go back? How does a teacher come to school and how does the teacher go back? If you're going to come to school as a teacher and you're inside a bus that is jam-packed and there's no compliance within the bus, and then you arrive at the school, it's almost impossible and unrealistic for us to ask the government to provide testing in the schools on such a regular basis to be able to monitor that. So I think the real onus for compliance actually lies with the adults. If we do what we need to do, then when the children get to school, there will be less of a burden on the schools themselves in order to provide that. And like I said, in behavior-wise, the children will do better. They will do better. You will see them telling each other, you know, wear your mask. You're not wearing your mask. And it's like, you know, there are little tussles back and forth because they are children. But they understand the importance of it and they will obey. It's people like you who decide not to obey.
Doesn't that also, you know, put a responsibility on, I don't know how to put this, but perhaps this one way. There are still adults that the children go back to at home who don't believe that there is such a thing as COVID-19, who still do not believe even now. So, and they're going to interface, these children will interface with them when they get home and they go back to school and they are compelled to wear the masks. So that confusion is still there. So how will that kind of child be gamified?
It's actually, and that's the point I'm making, that the real change that has to happen, the real shift in attitude and behavior has to be with the adults. And if the adults don't do it, then why do you expect the children to do? They will copy what they see at a certain age. And if they see the laxity on the part of the adults, why would they do it? They will do it in school because they're compelled to. When they come home, they will do what everybody else is doing. When they're getting into the bus, they will do what everybody else is doing. You don't expect a 10-year-old and 8-year-old. In Nigeria, we don't have school busing. So that means that children come to school either by walking, they come on bikes, they come in private cars, or they come in buses, commercial buses. You don't expect a 10-year-old to tell the bus driver you're not wearing a mask. He's probably going to stand on the road. If he's lucky, we'd probably thrown out. So I really think that to get this thing right, and we all have to take responsibility. And there's a lot of this pushing of responsibility to government. What is government doing? What's government not doing? But we haven't asked ourselves, what are we doing as individuals to create a safe environment and to embed the culture that the children can actually copy?
Okay, Mr. Salah, how are you implementing this social distance in school, in the classrooms?
Yes.
You're having staggered, we're having one or two sessions.
Yeah, we're having off and on. And I gave an example of that earlier this week when I was on, where we have, I'm going to give it that same example again, where, for example, we have junior and senior secondary schools. I'm using secondary schools because those are the ones I've inspected and seen students in classroom and interacted with them. So we went on a Wednesday, and that school that we went, those schools that we went to, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday were the days that JSS 1 were in school. Okay. And that meant that JSS 2 was not in school that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They were on Tuesday and Thursday. So the classes that were occupied by JSS 2, we spread out the JSS 1 students into those classrooms, thereby implementing much more reach for the students to be able to utilize different rooms. And then we also insisted that the number of students in each classroom should be 25 to 30. And each school that we've been going to, wherever we see that they break this rule, we really come down hard on them on that.
25, 30, that's a large class.
25, 30 is actually when you space them out in those desks. It's not...
So how big are the classrooms in schools these days?
Our classrooms are pretty big, actually, for the most part.
Because my class, when I was in school, there were 25 of us for a full class. So if you are going to do one day off, so you have 15.
The standard classroom size
12, 15.
Yeah, the standard classroom size is about 40 seats. So, but some states like Lagos built a little bit larger to accommodate about 50 to 60 because of the number of people. Because remember, you have to remember that
60 children in one class.
Well, it can accommodate that amount. I mean, in terms of it can accommodate that amount. But if you go to the schools, you'll find that there's a lot of spacing. Even back then, there was a lot of, before the pandemic, there was quite a bit of spacing. So clearly, they can accommodate that in many of the schools. Again, because the sizes of the school, of the classrooms.
Our classrooms are pretty big.
And kind of like, Lagos is a bit peculiar, and we have to kind of like accommodate the fact that Lagos is peculiar. But I think if you go to other places outside of Lagos, you may actually find that they were not even able to fill up those classrooms of 40 to 50, 40 size. Some schools, some states, you find compact. Other states, you find a lot of space because of the ratio of children who actually do attend those schools.
So we have that challenge.
Yes,
there was a
challenge,
crisis
of
in
course,
education prior to the pandemic. The pandemic has only exacerbated it.
Has only shown us the gaps, as we were saying earlier.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you are the president of the Institute of Software Practitioners. How busy have you been in light of the fact that a lot of learning has to be done from home now? Many schools have instituted online learning for their students and all that. So how busy has that kept you?
I would say not as busy as we should be.
Oh?
Yes, because...
Still?
Well, clearly, because, you know, there's a national conversation by some of the people who should be driving it, who are saying, we cannot do it. And we keep coming back to this point that, you know, in every society, but more so in Nigeria, we've got these people that are the look-back people, and we've got the look-forward people. So the look-back people will keep telling you, we can't, we can't. They're not talking about how can it be done. They say, we can't, we can't. And then they stand firm and say, we cannot. We will not open schools. We cannot teach because there's no equipment, there's no this, there's no that. The look-forward people say, what can we do about it? So like in the case of Lagos, they went into radio. They introduced radio education by radio. They introduced education by WhatsApp. They introduced education by learning systems.
We also did TV.
They went and did TV. Mm-hmm. They worked on their teachers and their blended learning, as a pedagogy within the schools. Mm-hmm. They were looking forward. The look-backs were saying, no, we're waiting. When it ends, we'll start. But no, we don't have infrastructure. And that's why I said that we've not been as busy. When you look at something like Zoom as an application, you find that Zoom's shares has gone up 700% since the pandemic began. Why? Because it was onboarded as a collaboration tool, not just in businesses or between individuals, but in schools as technology that enables remote learning. So we have seen some growth, but have we seen what we're supposed to see? Actually, no. And the real reason why we haven't seen that is because the government and the people of Nigeria have not committed to online learning. In many respects, they say it is inferior. So I asked the question, look at your WAEC results, your WASC results. May, June 2020 was the best result Nigeria has had in 5 years. In the pandemic, 80% of the people who took the exam got 5 subjects. 65% got 5 subjects, including English and math. It's the best result in 5 years. What happened? So when you go to the data and the data shows you that, you start to ask yourself, you should be asking that question, what happened? Did we lower the standards? Or did you suddenly find that self-teaching by the students themselves? Did the students not get up and say, we've got this exam, we have to prepare for it? And they went out and they found materials to learn with. Many of them downloaded materials that came from our industry. Many of them, all the learning tools, examination preparation tools, all those things became possible for them. Those who didn't have borrowed from others, and they learnt. And they found a way and they prepped themselves because they went back into schools just 2 or 3 weeks before the exams. And they performed in this manner. So shouldn't we be saying to ourselves that we have seen something happen that is phenomenal? In the midst of a pandemic, which is the equivalent of a war, we have produced the best results. What was responsible for that? We should double down on exactly that. And by doing so, every child in Nigeria should have a device. And every child should be able to,
and I was even going to interject that was what we did in Lagos State for both the junior, secondary, JSS3, and the SS3 students. We actually gave them devices. The SS3, we gave them simple smartphones, and then the JSS3, we gave them radios so that they could tune into the radio programming. And then we followed up with them on the simple smartphones, on their learning and with the content. And then their teachers were engaging with them on WhatsApp to follow up with them. So there was a lot of follow-up. And even after that, we went in person and we did surveys and we questioned them to understand what was happening and how engaged were they with their learning with those devices. We did that in Lagos State.
Well, it's interesting because the radio learning, to the best of my knowledge, from my experience, working in a previous broadcast organization, radio learning started as far back as, say, 2000, 2002, thereabout, in Lagos. So I'm wondering, maybe it was like Lagos decided, you know what, let's go into the future. But I think you were talking about a break right now?
Yes, we'll just take a short break, come back and continue the conversation. Thank you for staying with us. Now, during the break, we were talking about learning by radio. And we were wondering why stations would give the nation free airtime, because most of them are commercial stations. So, Ms. Salau.
Yes, I had mentioned during the break that it's because it's a social good and it does contribute towards development. And actually, this is one of those situations where we call it a win-win. It's a win for us as a state, as a public entity, but it's also a win for the private entity in that when we instituted the radio learning during the lockdown, we found out that the radio stations that partnered with us actually had an increase, a surge in listeners. And they were able to go back to the advertisers and say, look, we're having a lot more people listening in. And they're not just listening in Lagos. They're listening in from Ogun State. They're listening in from Katsina. They're listening in from Kaduna. They're listening from Cross River, from Akwa Ibom. All across the nation, we're going to increase our rates. And they did. Were able to get more subscribers for those they advertised. And they made a lot more revenue during that time. So it's a win-win.
You probably got more tax from them. Mr. Bazoku, let me go back to what Alera said the other time about the fact that you should be busier now than you were before. It would suggest then that perhaps the naysayers had more authority, more ground, more say in the matter. What exactly is the inhibition? Because if you, of course, you are also part of that 2050 agenda of the federal government, if we have that kind of agenda on the plate, there really shouldn't be any reason why we are not talking futuristic. There shouldn't be any reason why we would have such naysayers having such a say in the stake.
Yeah.
Change is difficult, extremely difficult. I mean, we've been on this journey for a very long time. The digital transformation journey in Nigeria probably began with President Obasanjo. You would say when major things were done around technology. But, you know, the understanding that there is a marriage between technology and education that is completely inevitable, and that you cannot drive one without the other is something that is still lacking. That's why people kind of like divorce the two. They talk about technology as a subject in school as opposed to a way of life. And so long as you proceed along those lines, you keep having these challenges. And the predominant view is going to be that way. And I'll give you a couple of examples just for us to talk about that. The numbers always tell a story. Nigeria is 200 million people, between 180 and 200 million people. We have 1.8 million, maybe 1.9 million people in tertiary education. 1% of your population. Where is the human capital going to come from to drive the aspirations for national growth? If you don't dramatically expand the number of people going to school, getting a tertiary education, then there's no way that you can grow your economy, because the economy is built on people. Human beings and human capital is a fundamental component of what we would call your critical national infrastructure. So education actually should be treated as that. And technology is the only way that you can expand that. And the way to think about it is, you look at a university like University of Lagos. It's in the heart of Lagos. It has about 70,000 people, about 40,000 students, 30,000 academic staff. How do you expand it? How do we turn that number from 30,000 or 40,000 to 100,000 to drive the 21 million population or 24 million population of Lagos? You cannot physically expand the universities to the capacity that's required to reach the level that we need to drive, which means logically the only other way is to go to tertiary, is to go to use technology to grow the space. Beyond that, beyond that, there's also a challenge around the world has moved on. Harvard University said last year in the midst of the pandemic that they're projecting that only 10% of the universities in the US will be in existence by the year 2030. In other words, in 10 years' time, that the pace at which technology is going, the demand for a reduced cost for tertiary education, the requirements for education that is non-physical, like engineering, medicine, and all that, will mean that there will be a radical shift. You're talking about over 600 institutions in the world's largest economy going away. Away as physical institutions and going to online. not within 20 years, but within 10 years. We go into the other aspects of our education. And I just told you that our children produced dramatic results in the midst of a pandemic. We are in a war with this virus. And in that war situation, they task themselves. Parents task themselves. Teachers task themselves. The teachers going to calling up children, asking them how you're doing at home and things like that. What was the fundamental driver of that? And I would bet that when the data comes out, it's going to show clearly that those who deployed technology aggressively into the education sector are those that actually produce the results and produce growth. So there is no alternative to using technology. And unless we make a wholesale commitment, national commitment to it, it's not going to change.
Talking about the national commitment to it, what is the shortfall? What are the gaps? And then what are our low-hanging fruits? Because definitely, just as you have said, each time I look at this thing, I get as realistic. I try to get as realistic as you. 10 years from now, the 10-year-old is going to be 20 years old. And if these facts are in our faces, we definitely need to begin to do something. You heard David saying the other time that in 1999, he was barely 20, and now he's over 40. And the same thing we're going to say to the 10-year-old today, who is going to be 20 years old and of university age or supposed to be out of university by age 20. What are the shortfalls? What are the gaps? And what are the low-hanging fruits?
So the way our industry sees things is that, technology is very unique. It is not just a catalyst. When you inject technology into an environment, it acts as a catalyst within that environment. It's also an accelerator. It forces things to happen much, much faster. And it's a multiplier in the sense that it doesn't just happen within this space. It has complementary effects across. It's the only thing in this world that actually has those three characteristics. The ability to catalyze change, ability to accelerate the pace of change, and the ability to multiply change across sectors. So the more you restrict technology, the more of a disadvantage you put your own society at. And the truth is that what do we need to do? There are basic things. This country, for instance, should do, I often give the example of India. India made a decision that they were not going to allow, they were going to preempt the purchase of iPads at $400 a piece. They have a population of 1 billion. And they said if 1 million of our people buy iPads, that's $400 million that is leaving our country and going to Apple in the US or wherever it may be. And they said, we will build our own. They had sat down with their engineers, they designed it, they put a cost to producing it, and they said, well, it's going to be cheaper for us to produce this in China. So they outsourced the manufacturing to China to produce the device. The device came back into their country at the cost of $60. And the government then said, yes, and the government then said, we will make this device available to all tertiary institutions at 50% of this cost.
$30.
Yeah. That device has gone through 4 iterations today. Where it is now, it's as good as any Android tablet you can get anywhere else. But it's now manufactured by Indian companies, partly in China, partly in India, and they've reached proliferation.
Okay.
With the device, once you put a device, and all of us here are witnesses to that, and our parents are witnesses to it. If an 80-year-old lady can get a handset that is a smartphone and learn how to manipulate it, no instruction manual. I don't know if you ever read the instruction manual for your smartphone. My mother didn't, and she's 84, but she uses it. This is the magic of the device. So today, she's got access to exactly the same set of tools and capability that anybody else on the planet has who has the same phone. This is the power of what we must bring. And then the multiplier then happens. Our industry then takes it over. We start, instead of our children consuming content that comes from abroad, they consume content that's made in Nigeria. Instead of our teachers trying to publish to Google Scholar, they publish locally, and a teacher I can be a mathematics teacher in Lagos, and I'm the best mathematics teacher in Nigeria. Maybe even one of the best in Africa. I teach, I codify that learning, I make it available digitally, and people from South Africa are paying me to watch my video.
Then it can be translated into local languages.
It turns into money.
And that's what we're doing.
This
that's
is the
what
multiplier.
We're doing that in Lagos State.
Are you also buying? Are you also making the devices in Lagos?
Don't go to the devices.
No, I actually want to talk about the devices. I really do. They're really important, and we spent a huge drive. We had a huge drive in 2020, which was supported by. I guess, can I mention the names of the people who supported us?
Some people.
Okay, some. Okay, at least let me stop with First Bank. First Bank was one of our major drivers for those simple smartphones that we gave to our students, and we gave it to them for free. So we did have those drivers, and that's what helped us with our WAEC, because we gave it to our SS3 students. And this year we have...
Are they given to them to take away, or when they leave it for the next set of students?
Oh, no, they take it home, because we have hybrid learning now.
When they graduate.
Or when they graduate,
yes, they leave it for the next
what's going
set
to
of
happen with them?
students.
Well, right now, we are thinking in terms of while they're in school. This set that we have right now, by the time we get to the end of their tenure in school, we'll make that decision. But right now, we're working on while they're in school. For now, we've given out devices to SS2 and SS3 students. We want to get it all the way down to SS1 and eventually our junior secondary schools. So we have a major drive this year where we want to have more devices. So we have a dedicated line in the budget for the purchase of more devices, as well as we're going to continue this drive to reach out to the private sector to partner with us so that we can give out these devices to our students both in public and private schools. Because it's really important if all our students have these devices and they're able to engage in blended learning. See, the key thing that I'm getting from what he said, and we have also studied and seen, is when the students have agency, that is, they have the ability to take ownership of their learning, something magical happens. And we saw that when we went out and we surveyed them and we spoke to them and we engaged with them. What did you do during the lockdown? How are you learning? What were you doing? What were your parents doing? And these were our students in the public sector that we were interviewing and talking with. I'm sure if we went and we also interviewed our students in the private sector, we'll hear the same thing
Exactly.
too.
Any interactions with our own Silicon Valley in Yaba?
Yes, we've been engaging them.
The content that sits on those devices
it's from them.
local
it's
content.
Local content.
And
yes,
this is exactly what should happen. So think about proliferation of these local contents, that people all over Nigeria, software developers can build software. Teachers can create content. Everybody can utilize that platform
recorded their own videos
and accelerate.
What would you recommend? My apologies. Because I know I can't answer for her.
This is getting very exciting.
I'm almost certain I know where she's like this. But if we are to catalyze this Lagos example that you're talking about now, all over the nation, what will it take? What's the challenge? What's the drop down?
I'll tell you, it's not a difficult thing. I said it earlier. There's a look back and a look forward people. Let's not forget that.
Do you need a national policy?
We need the look forward people. And I'll tell you why.
Do you need a national policy? My apologies. Yeah. Do you need a national policy for that, or it's just something that the governors themselves should be able to pick it up?
When you want to move a nation, you create a moonshot. We're going to put a man on the moon. We're going to put fiber in every home. I mean, you create a moonshot. We're going to put a device in every hand. It becomes a national mantra, and everybody starts to move towards that goal. Until that goal is set in such a big, audacious manner, it will not move. Software developers across the country are literally desperate, not just for work, but to be agents of change. They have the capacity. They have built learning management systems. They have built learning content creation systems. They've built content delivery systems. They are working in the networks, in all the telcos. They are there. The entire technology industry, and particularly the software industry, which I represent, they have done this. Lagos State is using software that was locally developed. They didn't go and buy applications from America or from India or whatever. They're using tools that were locally developed, which means that we've generated employment. What does it take? It takes a simple statement and a real commitment that we, as a country, are going to move 60% of our education online within the next 10 years. And immediately, the entire system starts to operate around that and says, how do we make that happen?
Start moving in that direction.
All the little
it should start, but I think it's very important for us to understand that there's a momentum that has already happened. And it happened a long time ago, but sometimes the data is not available to us. The tertiary institution with the highest number of Nigerians is Indira Gandhi National Open University. It has the largest enrollment of Nigerians of any university in the world, including in Nigeria.
And it's all online.
Yes. 4 years ago, it was 600,000 Nigerian students who were enrolled in Indira Gandhi National Open University. That's one university.
600,000?
Yes.
Okay.
So you need to ask yourself, how do we accelerate that process? And by contrast, that 600,000, remember what I said, the total population of our universities today, student enrollment is about 1.8, 1.9 million. That's across 164 universities.
Interesting.
Okay.
You wanted to?
Yes. Now, we've spoken about the students, we've spoken about the learning. Now, let's talk about the teachers.
Thank you.
Yes.
What kind of training are the teachers getting to be able to keep up with this trend now?
Oh, yes. We have been very, very aggressive working on that. We have partnered with Microsoft, one company, as well as other organizations to onboard a lot of learning to accelerate the teachers being able to utilize technology as a tool. I agree with him. Technology is a wonderful tool if utilized properly. So we partner with Microsoft and other organizations to start working with our teachers. During the lockdown, we trained over a week's period, 18,000 of our secondary school teachers being able to use different software to engage the students actively.
Keep going.
Okay, yes, being able to engage the students actively and be able to utilize blended learning. That was what we did. And we're continuing to do that throughout 2021. In fact, we have several iterations, several plans in the works.
If you don't mind me butting in here, the question I believe that she's trying to ask, or has asked you, let me put in a few other words. So there are teachers that have certain skill sets about impacting learning. Now we have to move, to use Mr. Bazoku's word, 60% of that into the virtual space. Mm-hmm. The skills are different.
Of course.
So have you had to take on new set of people to impart this learning, or is it the same number of teachers?
It's the same teachers, and we're working with them. They are being trained with these organizations that I mentioned and these training programs that we started in 2020, and we're going to continue even more aggressively in 2021. Because like we all know, whether we like it or not, this is the new normal, and we've embraced it in Lagos State because we're continuing blended learning. So we do know that the way you engage in-person learning is totally different from the way you engage learning online. Okay. So that's why we're making these active measures to make sure that we're able to utilize, I won't use the word utilize, boost the teachers, their skills in being able to deploy this online learning properly.
Okay. He talked about something interesting, and that is change is always difficult. I want to assume that there was a little bit of resistance from the teachers, initially. What were their reservations, and how was it addressed?
A lot of their reservations, of course, were, do we have enough devices for the students, which we've assured them of this drive that we are to getting more devices for the students. Another one, of course, is about data, which we all understand. But the way we've come around the issue with data is these devices, we've made a lot of the content available offline. So you don't actually require data to be able to get on. And then we've been trying to, I say trying because we're still in the works, to partner with the telecos to give us reduced tariffs, reduced rates, for our students to be able to go online when they do need to go online with those simple smartphones.
Well,
the issue of data is an issue which we always raise when we talk about this e-learning thing. What kinds of conversations are going on with the telcos, and not just the telcos, those who actually are giving internet infrastructure? People like Main One and all that, Fiber One, NG1, or whatever they're all called.
So it's a little bit of a touch and go. The reality. I mean, you must have heard some people talking about many governors announcing right of way, cancelling right of way charges, and all that sort of thing, which is to facilitate the deployment of that kind of infrastructure. I think we have to understand that there's a maturity model for these things. You go from one stage to another stage and you keep going that direction. The truth is that for learning to happen, about 80% of that learning does not require, if not more, at most levels of education, does not require the internet.
Does not require?
Internet connectivity.
Really?
Yeah.
But if I'm a student of Indira Gandhi University,
they're doing, this is what I'm saying, that the students have chosen that option, right? Because that's the way that they have to go. The question is, can we provide an alternative? And what you'd find is that, just like in this office, you now want to send an email. If I want to send an email to you, sitting right here, I would connect through my device to my provider, through my GSM company, we'll connect to the mast, and it goes up into the cloud. It goes to a server outside of Nigeria, travels to find your address, and sends the information back to you, and you have to be connected to the internet. In other words, an email from me to you, first of all, takes a trip, an international journey. It's completely unnecessary. Why can't it go from me directly to you? This is what we mean by going into the offline mode, the connected but offline in terms of not online to the internet. If I put a server in this room and you can connect to it using a simple router, no internet, and you're all my students, you will learn. Because I will download all the content that is required onto that server and put that server in a school, create a local area network using a router, no internet, and whatever sits on that server, every student in that school will get access to it.
So in a way,
that's an easy way for us to take all the education, because a lot of this content is free. But even the one that has been created, you can interact inside. The internet has not always been here.
So this will perhaps
let's understand each other.
This will perhaps address one of the challenges that I believe Mr. Lau mentioned earlier, because once students are able to get on the internet, they go to other areas of the internet.
All other places.
They can. They can
Our
also.
devices are restricted.
They can, but they can be stopped because you can
Devices,
restrict them through software. The software
Yes.
can restrict them
Yeah,
to
we have
certain
restricted
locations.
them.
Even the connection can restrict them to certain places. So you can have. In the old days, we used to have what we call the ISM band, which was a frequency that was restricted for education, the military, and research science.
Okay.
So it is possible for you to restrict it. So I do think that it's very important for us to understand that if I go to my village today and I take your device to my village today and I can connect it to a projector, everything that you have on that device becomes available to all the children in that school. No internet, just a projector and your device. And immediately I can teach global warming. Because every video you have there, I can project and I can teach with. More importantly, Tola is an expert in STEM. If I have recorded Tola's lessons for a complete term of curriculum and it's on your device, it means that suddenly my village is having access to Nigeria's best teacher of STEM. It really is as simple as that. We are the ones standing in our own way, and we just need to get out of the way and let things happen.
I want to interject that actually we're having partnerships because it's present continuous. We're having partnerships with a lot of these organizations about internet in the building. In fact, we're going to be announcing very soon some of the work we're doing with Facebook around internet and access for our students. And it's not just Facebook, there are others. There are going to be more announcements around that coming up before the end of the first quarter, if I remember correctly. Yes, before the end of the first quarter, because access is actually very important. Yes, we do have this content offline. However, we do want them to have access to material that also will make them globally, being able to have what is out there, across the world. There's so much material, particularly in the sciences that have been done there, that if our students take advantage of that, they are world class.
Okay.
They'll be able to compete with anyone.
Well, let me read this to it. If a student suddenly started to show symptoms of COVID, how would the school deal with that?
We have sick bays in our schools. Like I said, we've been going on COVID readiness tours, visits across our schools, and we've ensured that each of these schools that we go to have those sick bays. So immediately any student shows that student is isolated in there, and then we begin to deploy other safety measures around containing and then evacuating the student from school. So we do have sick bays in each of our schools. I have seen them. We have interacted with the medical personnel who are also equipped to be able to handle the students in those places. So yes. Okay.
Weleski says the plan they put in place to put the private schools in check. Your focus seems to be on the public schools.
Oh no, our jurisdiction is both public and private schools. So when I'm speaking here, I mean, yes, I am speaking about public schools. We have also visited our private schools and seen what is going on. We have safety and hygiene protocols put in place for our private schools. So we do address both our public and private schools. In fact, like I mentioned on Tuesday, majority of our schools here in Lagos State are private schools. So of course we have to address and handle whatever things that are going on in there too.
Festus Akimboyewa again says, are there fully trained school personnel who can identify the symptoms of COVID, and do they have the skills to deal with them?
Yes, we have had sensitization trainings the third and the fourth quarter by the states, by our agencies who are equipping and dealing with head of schools, teachers, this same medical personnel I mentioned, that's the nurses, as well as the teachers who are dealing with the students in class. Yes, we've had really, really robust trainings around that.
There's this other one that goes with one of us here. Every disappointment comes with a lesson. The e-learning could be traced back to the 60s. Some of my subjects, his or her subjects, like natural science and so on, were delivered via the NTV between 11 a.m. and 12 noon, when there was nothing like TV programs at daytime.
I said it.
Yeah, you did. Okay. We're not in the 60s
So
any longer.
We're not ancient.
No. Very old. See, things people need to understand that life is cyclical. What's old becomes new again. What's new becomes old.
Let me take this on with you, Madam Salasala. You have heard him talk about us looking forward.
Of course.
Now, in terms of looking forward, some of these devices were probably imported. I stand to be corrected. But he has also given an example that perhaps, we might also be looking at. If one is to channel this, because it is an opportunity for us to develop a lot of
learning,
capacity
building,
and futuristic ones. What are the opportunities that Lagos State government, for example, has seen? And what are the things we're doing to make sure we do not lose the advantages these opportunities have brought?
I can say it in one word, skill development.
That's in closing.
Yes, skills development. We're taking advantage of skills development. We're making sure that we're putting in place ways that we can build and boost the capacity of our youth. And we're going to be rolling out different programs around this. So yes, skills development in the word, that's what we've been working on. That's what we've seen exposed by the shortages with the pandemic. And then we want to make sure that, we've seen this. How do we make sure that we anticipate that this doesn't happen again? Okay.
In the event, in a few words, Mr. Mbazuko, in the event we do not take sufficient or significant advantage of these opportunities, what are the risks?
We're already seeing the risks because a large part of the insurrection that is happening in the northeastern parts of the country is coming from education. It's a simple story. It's the story of lack of education because the Boko Haram thing is all around education. It's about does education deliver employment? And if we do go to this type of school, will we actually get something? When you look at what is happening across the country, the insecurity that we're seeing, and even in Lagos, the insecurity is as a direct result of two things: education, jobs and opportunity that derives from that. Once you close one down, you cause the other. And we continue to maintain, and I can't say this often enough. I know it sounds very self-serving, but the truth is that in the 21st century, we have no option but to go digital. And every day that we sit saying we can't, looking back, takes us away from a possible future.
I think we've all come to acknowledge that.
Thank you very much.
Digital is the way to go.
Absolutely. I want to thank you both for being here this morning. Adetola Salau is Senior Special Assistant on Education to the Governor of Lagos State. Thank you so much for your time. As well as Chineye Mbauzoko, who is President, Institute of Software Practitioners of Nigeria, a trustee, Education Reform Intervention Team, ERIT, as well as member Education and Manpower Thematic Work Group of the Federal Government Agenda 2050. Thank you once again for being here.
Thank you very much for having us.
Sunrise continues in a moment. Do stay with us.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We've talked education, now let's talk some business. And joining us to talk about that will be the Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA. And I'm talking about Ambassador Ayola Olukoni. He is the DG over at NASIMA. Thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and please kindly excuse this format. I wanted to come to the studios, but the traffic in and around Lagos, closure of Third Mainland Bridge, frustrated that effort. But I'm here, thanks to technology.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let me begin with the border opening, because it seems to be the latest happening that will affect our relationship with our neighbors. How has this affected our work, in quotes, with the ACTA? That word is so difficult, but you know what I'm talking about.
Let us just call it AFTA. It could be a tongue twister to say ASCFTA. Let us say the AFTA.
AFTA,
the African
okay.
Free Trade
All
Agreement,
right.
so that
Good.
people can follow easily.
Good.
Well, actually, I think the first thing to say that our borders were closed for various reasons, securities, smuggling, and which were undercutting the Nigerian economy, and of course our security as well. But anyway, a lot of water has since passed under the bridge. After reviewing those things, I think the government decided to reopen. So the borders have been reopened. And I think in context of our relationship, our position in the West African sub-region is an indication of the fact that, yes, we are ready to be part and parcel of it. We play a very key and very important role in our sub-region. So it was the right thing to do. And we're quite glad that those land borders have been reopened. But it is also very important that in reopening those borders, the question and issues of smugglings and others were also being tackled, and that they will not be, of course, allowed. So in context of the AFTA, generally, the FTA, I think it was the right step in the right direction, because you can be closing your border and you want to be part and parcel of a continental free trade. So it's the right thing in the right direction as far as the implementation of the AfCFTA itself is concerned.
How ready are medium and small scale industries for this interaction with other countries in the region?
Well, definitely the MSME are indeed the bedrock of the Nigerian economy in terms of contribution to GDP. You're talking close to about over 49%. I mean, you're talking about question and issues of employment, about over 70%. So they are key and very important. And there are many members of the in the private sector who are small and medium scale companies. Take, for example, they manufacture a broad range of products, from things like soap, food products, pharmaceuticals, and a few others, which also are already also in the African market and even West African market now. So in context of the AfCFTA, the MSMEs are very, very important. And I think that was why government, of course, in its wisdom, has launched the 75 billion, the survival fund for the SME, the MSME. If you look at it now, I think you can go online to be able to access some of this fund. But we must learn from history. We must learn from during the lockdown.
I beg your pardon, Ambassador. I do beg your pardon. We need to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Welcome back. We were having a chat with Ambassador Olukoni. He is DG of NASIMA, Association of what is it again?
Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture.
General Association of Chambers of Commerce.
Chambers of Commerce. Yes, you were talking to us about the preparedness of SMEs for AFTA. And how aware are they of AFTA anyway?
You said what? Come again.
I said you were talking to us about the preparedness of MSEs for AFTA. And anyway, how aware are they of AFTA?
Well, the MSMEs will play a key role because in terms of the implementation of the AFTA. First, let us understand that the the AFTA itself is a private sector agreement that will be implemented by private sector, actually. So it is necessary for us. It may be a government agreement, but it is the private sector that will operate it. And that's why it's necessary and important for us to capacitate the MSME and reposition them to be able to play this particular role. Let me give a practical example, because practical examples are very helpful. For example, the Nigerian coffee sector is growing now gradually. There's a company, a member of our association, who is also involved in selling coffee, producing and selling coffee. You know, gourmet coffee. And somewhere along the lines, they are still struggling to meet the Nigerians at the Nigerian market. This is for real. Somewhere along the Lupeju there, they distribute their coffee through various ways. So in context of the AFCTA, first, they said that they need to take a long view of history. So they've gone to acquire 2 acres of land to grow Nigerian coffee. And they've gone to do that with an eye to compete with Kenyan as well as Ethiopian coffee. This is a Nigerian company getting itself ready to be able to trade in terms that, well, in the area of as far as coffee itself is concerned. And I'm not sure how many of us know about this. So this is a very good example. I'm wearing a fabric, an Adire fabric, which is, you can call about, the famous Adire fabric. And it has been identified that one of the areas where Nigeria can compete effectively is in the area of textile. Even though the textile factory, of course, industry itself is still struggling now. But if you take the case of Adire factory, I remember that I was invited to Ogun State, and the Ogun State government launched the authentic Ogun Adire. So if we can capacitate and support most of those women who are producing this, that means that we can take advantage of the opportunity as far as the textile sector is concerned, as far as this is concerned. Let me give another example. We have one of our members, the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce is across the country, NACIMA. We have members across the country, and in the north, in the south, in the east, and everywhere. We do have the Nsukka Chambers of Commerce now, brought together 300 farmers under a cooperative to grow the Nsukka yellow pepper with an eye to export the Nsukka yellow pepper outside Nigeria. So the possibility of being able to do that in context of the FCTA is there. All we need to do is to ensure that the various funds which have been made available, maybe CBN intervention funds and others, can be easily accessed. There is still a problem in terms of accessing those funds now. This is one of the things we should do in terms of facilitating the MSME Survivor Fund, which has been launched. A ministerial committee has been put together so that members can, of course, be able to access that. That is the issue. Implementation, and capacitating our members, the MSME, to be able to trade, to be able to increase their productive capacity. I gave you the example of the coffee company, which is now supplying coffee to in and around Lagos and other places. And now they are now scaling up. They've got acres of land to be able to grow Nigerian coffee, to be able to compete effectively with your Kenyan as well as the Ethiopian coffee, as well as the readiness to be able to trade under the AFCTA.
A sore point, so to speak, in the whole, value chain, if I can use that term, and that is that of accessing the funds that the federal government has supposedly earmarked. There is the ERGP, I'm sure you're aware of it. There is the ESP. There is the Survival Fund, which is an element of the ESP. There is the CBN, Intervention Fund. There is the Anchor Borrowers Fund. And there is an MSME fund from the CBN. So all of these are there. And to a good number of people, it will sound like they're just fantastic rhetoric, wonderful plans, but putting them to use, activating them is the issue. What, in your opinion, is the real issue why they are difficult to access?
Thank you very much. I mean, I totally agree with you in terms of the question of accessibility of this fund. And that was why during the lockdown last year, the COVID fund, 50 billion that was, I think that was released, we had to take off the issue that the funds was one, too slow in coming and too little. And we said we should learn lesson from that. You've mentioned the ESP plan, the Economic Sustainability Plan, 2.3 trillion. There's so much amount of money which are there. You've also mentioned the MSME fund, which has recently been launched. We saw that on TV. We are telling, and that's why we are engaged as a National Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mines and Agriculture, and also as a member of the OPS. We're saying that, look, it's not just enough to mention and say these funds are there. What is the rate at which people can access those funds? Because if they don't come early, it doesn't make sense. And I give you a practical example. We have some members of NASIMA who applied for 25 million and they were only given 100,000. I mean, give me a break. So that is the point we are making. That let us learn lesson from what has happened in the past in terms of the question of those funds being
quickly. Let's say, Jojo, on this access thing. You've talked about the OPS. Nasima is a member of the OPS. Man is a member. NECA is a member, and a good number of that. Would you say that there was any form of conversation between government and these organized private sector for accessing these funds?
There is conversation going on. The organized private sector of Nigeria is made up of MAN, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, NASIMA, NECA, NASI, as well as NASME. And then we do have meetings among ourselves and we engage the government. And this time around, we are ramping it up and say, look, listen, the lessons we learned, you must work closely with the organized private sector. Because if you say that these funds are for the organized private sector, then their members must be able to access those funds quickly. And I think this is an opportunity to be able to reach out again. And I'm sure relevant authorities are hearing it, that please let these funds be easily accessible.
It goes back to the same question. My apologies. It goes back to the same question. If the conversations were going on well with the organized private sector, members of which in associations you have mentioned, why then are these organized people still having difficulty accessing the funds that government says is theirs?
You know, I'm very fond of the famous saying of Mario Cuomo, the famous governor of New York, of blessed memory, who said that you campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. That means that you campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. These funds has been there. The process of accessing them are some of the issues where you find these obstacles. I'm delighted that there's a ministerial committee that has been set up, and members of the private sector are part of that ministerial committee for the implementation and accessing those funds. And that is why we're saying that this time around, we'll ramp it up in terms of accessibility of those funds, because it doesn't make sense. And that's why we're saying that look at the ASP, the ESP, and the Economic Sustainability Plan. Under agriculture, you have a clue of 200 billion. The home progress, you have that. So the question and issue now is that there must also be targets. This time around, the conversation is saying that within this particular month, percentage of these funds must have been disbursed. 6 months' time, percentage must have been disbursed. I think such targets will help this time around to easily access all of it. And let me also mention, for example, we have the National Collateral Registry, which of course is part and parcel of the arrangement for MSME to be able to get funding without using the collateral such as your cars and other things like that, and your equipment. I'm not sure how many of us know about the National Collateral Registry. We are saying that if you want to make sure that people can access this particular fund, then let us be clear about it. Facilitate those things. We conducted a survey in terms of the impact of the lockdown, and it was amazing in terms of the impact. It was so huge. And then people now have difficulties in terms of accessing those funds, because sometimes you have to go online and fill forms and all those things. We're trying to, can't we find a more ingenious way to be able to access this fund and easily? And that's why we're saying that the chambers of commerce across the country provides opportunity to be able to also help in terms of accessibility of this fund. The chambers of commerce, most of them, of course, they are private sector or companies that are members of the chambers. So the possibility of using that the chambers of commerce is there. Secondly, we also have NASME, the Small and Medium Scale Enterprises Association. It is also possible, of course, to be able to use those ones directly. Then we also have, of course, Manufacturing Association of Nigeria too as well. So that through their members, you can be able to get across and let people, of course, be able to access these funds. So these are the area. But I'm glad that the the conversation is on, and we're of course telling that easier acceptability. Let me also mention this time. There is a national gas expansion project and program, which is supposed to popularize gas, and because Nigeria is a gas nation, and there's an intervention fund in the CBN. We are saying that, look, it's not enough to have these intervention funds in the CBN. You're encouraging companies, private companies, to be able to go on and also go into the gas market. How do they accept this fund? Please make it a little bit easier for them. We're not saying it is free money. Anybody who goes to take some of those intervention funds, they have to pay. But accessibility and in terms of concrete steps to be able to accept those funds are issues which we are taking on.
All right, Ambassador, there are so many things to discuss, so little time, but let me just squeeze this question in before I hand to Alero. What is your take on that element of the finance bill that talks about reducing import duties for automobiles and related stuff from 35% to 5%? When we have an automotive plan that government says isn't working?
Honestly speaking, I think that's an area which we need to look at properly, because your automotive sector must be supported. I mean, I'm sorry, I must mention a member of NASIMA, Innocent Vehicle, which of course has shown the capacity. And I think this we need to rethink that particular area, because we must capacitate our company to be able to produce our own cars, trucks, to be able to. I think it's an area which needs to be rethinking. We need to look at it again.
Ambassador, industries are already under some kind of pressure in Nigeria. And then COVID came along and made things worse. And then NERC came along and increased electricity tariff. How is industry going to survive?
Well, the question of the Nigerian electricity sector, of course, is not something we can finish in doing. But the key issue is that, and I'm delighted that government had suspended that. But don't forget that the specific increases we are seeing is not something which we woke up to be order. It is within the framework of the MYTO, the multi-year tariff order itself, dating back as far as 2015. So we must accept the reality of it. There are some companies who have been able to, against the background of the MYTO, be able to increase the number of electricity, the amount of money, the amount of supplies which they get. That is one aspect of the MYTO, which is quite good, because if I'm a company and I do get some of these things in terms of this particular area to produce, I think it's good. But the issue and others which we talked about, of course, against the background of the lockdown and all the crisis which we have, was that, and I think government recognized this fact, and the NEC itself also looked at it and said, okay, fine, let us temporize as far as this is concerned. But the key issue as far as the Nigerian electricity sector, look at the question of the GENCOs. Now we talk about stranded electricity. How can we be talking about stranded electricity? Because of the incapacity to be able to evacuate. And this is one area I think we should look at. The question and issues of infrastructure in that particular area. And also the functioning of the discos too, as well. But beyond that, I want to use this opportunity to also look, there is a lot that needs to be done at the subnational level. A lot needs to be done. There's too much focus in terms of the center, itself at the national level. The respective states must wake up to it in terms of what to do across the board, in terms of delivering, in terms of that area. And also capacitating and supporting the private sector in the area. Let me quickly just go ahead and look at the mining sector, for example. I serve as the Nigerian High Commissioner in Australia for 3 years plus. And mining, I saw what mining was able to do for the Australian economy. And the resources, of course, in those days belong to those. So I am saying that the mining states in Nigeria, those of them who are there, as far as who have iron ore deposit, those of them who have gold deposit, should take advantage of this vast mineral deposit and work with the private sector. NASIMA has a mining forum. We have a program as far as capacitating the mining states as far as this is concerned, because government says that, yes, we want the private sector to be part and parcel of it. So the respective states themselves at their level should also wake up to it. Look at a state like Kogi State. An Australian company is out there and they want to start exporting iron ore. But the iron ore deposit is world class. So the point is that please, I'm using this opportunity to appeal to the respective states across the country. The chambers of commerce are in practically all the states. They are composed of members of the private sector. They should work closely with them so that all of us will not just be going to Abuja, to go and share the money of the excess crude. And by the way, now that the crude is going on, please don't let us be jumping up and down and saying, oh, oil prices is good. I think we should close our eyes to it and look at all other sectors in terms of the question of diversity of the economy, the agricultural sector, the mining sector, as well as all other areas.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador Ayola Olukoni, Director General, Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA. Thank you very much for coming to enlighten us this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm indeed very glad. And don't also forget, there's a National Action Committee on the after. And I think I will make sure that the Secretary of the National Action Committee I'll link them up with channels so that the conversation can continue. Because we will not stop. The EFCT itself is not a 100-meter dash; it's a long-distance race. So that we can learn what exactly are the advantages. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Sunrise will return in just a moment with the home stretch. Stay with us.
For the home stretch, we have a singer, a songwriter, a producer, and a talent manager in the person of Abisagbola Oluseun John. Everyone knows him as Bankuli. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, let's start with that Bankuli. What does it mean?
Well,
it sounds like kuli in my ears.
Exactly, kuli. That's what came to my mind.
What happened was that my undergraduate days in University of Ibadan, 100 level, first week in the university, they were playing football, Teda Hall, one small space. And I went down as a regular student to go and play football with them. On getting there, and I dribbled one person mistakenly, and the person slid on the floor, and somebody just felt like, who is this Bankuli? And he just talked like that, and they all forgot my first name, and they started calling me Bankuli, and I just like, okay, it sounds fresh, sort of, but I don't know. But he just talked like that all the years.
Is that what you do in the University of Ibadan?
Behave yourself. Behave yourself.
Just give yourself names like that.
Behave yourself.
Well, it was very spontaneous, as you can, as I've said.
University of Ibadan is still one of the best universities.
It's the best. It's the greatest.
So that's what you do. That's what you're saying. Just say.
Oh, children should not play football.
I'm just drop a name like that, and then it's anyway. Let's go to the music.
He's feeling out of place. Don't mind.
Of course, greatest UI.
Top UI.
Yes, ma'am. Acting.
Mr. Adekalu, they are promoting something here. You need to surcharge.
It's education, University of Ibadan, and it's the greatest. It's the greatest.
Thank you.
Oh, you don't know there's a rivalry between University of Ife.
Are you now the interviewer of this program? Or what exactly?
I'm trying to make you realize we are tag team. Greatest and greatest UI. That's it. Sorry.
As I was saying.
Okay, sir.
You may wish to remove your things. Yes, Bankuli.
I like your energy.
He was saying, how did you get into music? Is that where you were going?
No, face yourself. Face yourself.
Okay. Well, music has been part of my family. My dad was the choir master of the church. My mom, most especially, she's late. And I remember very well, she would pick up a ruler and a cassette player, slot in 1 hour tape, and she would start singing melodies when we were very small while cooking. So we were always like there. She would pick Bible verse, Genesis chapter 1. We use that as chorus, sing. Just my mom, and we watch her every time. My dad, choir master of the church. So naturally, we have to be member of the choir. So from there, learn how to play music instruments, learn all the rudiments of being a choir, the discipline, and what have you. And I remembered when it was time for me to go to the university, and I was so much into music. My dad was a disciplinarian, a teacher, and I had a one-on-one discussion with him about, so what's the next thing to do? And I'm like, I love music. It's like, you can't do music. The only way you can do music, you have to be a graduate.
So what did you graduate in?
I graduated zoology. I did science, and before I even get to that,
No wonder you were part of the Lion King soundtrack.
I think it's like I said.
Is it because of the zoology part?
I think is the universe. You know, there's a way this whole thing just.
Tell us how that came to be for you.
Okay, I was in LA. I was in Los Angeles to have a meeting with someone. I mean, a friend, Kanye West, and while I was there, the opportunity to work with Lion King showed up because one of the people working behind the scene on that project noticed I was in Los Angeles, and they were in between them internally. They were looking for someone to do some African chants and to sing, you know, in that African dialect. And she told them that, oh, wow, the person you're looking for is actually here in LA. You don't have to fly me. And that was how they reached out to me, and I went to them, and by the special grace of God, I was able to deliver what they were looking for.
You did a chant?
Yeah, on a song with Beyonce. So it's just me and Beyonce.
Can you do a little bit of that chant, please?
We will not put echo in your voice here.
No, you have to. You know the way choir. You have to know how to sing that. Sokale, sokale, sokale wa, wa wonu oko mi lo Oluwa. Because of the kind of music they gave me. The storyline is, everything is well patterned. Simba, the young lion, was faced to the wall. And they felt, how do you describe the scenario where he's faced to the wall? So my own interpretation is that when we're faced to the wall, you can't go left or right, you look up, God, help me. Yeah. So I'm calling, God to come to intervene in that situation. And he just blended with what they put in front of me.
Interesting. I'm wondering how I'm trying to imagine the look on Beyonce's face when she's hearing that.
Hey, well, number one, I think easy.
My brother,
watch your teeth. Don't go and swallow your tongue.
Excuse me.
Some might be wondering why we're not, playing that song. We do have it, but then of course, there are so many considerations to go into that. Now, Bankole, before you got to that level, you have worked far and wide among the music industry in Nigeria, helping to build one of the labels and the rest of that. The challenge that someone like me have seen, and she also would attest to it, having been in broadcasting for so many years, seeing the evolution, the rise and the fall, and the maybe stability or not of the music industry in Nigeria, especially as an industry and not just performers. What are the challenges that you have seen?
Well, most of the time, I always run from blaming the government. But this time around, I was sort of like try to just remind people in government that private sector thrives by the support of the government. When I mean support, it's not monetary support, but policies that will give enabling environment.
What kind of policies have you?
Well, laws are moribund, laws that protect people's rights, that even, that stands to back the industry. Because whether you like it or not, entertainment industry in Nigeria has been one of the major factors that has been able to shape the name of Nigeria in terms of perception. When you have a lot of Nigerians that sings now, I'm talking of example, Burna Boy is streaming close to almost 1 billion songs around the world. Do you know what that is? You have Davido, Whiskey, Tiwa Savage, Rema, so many people like that. Notes, Malik Berry, Skepta, who is from Abeokuta. And they're all, they are kings around the world. And it has been able, music that they've been chunking out has been able to unify a lot of people around the world, including people from other cultures and Nigerians. So whether you like it or not, music is big deal. Entertainment is big deal. I believe government should tap in. They've not really tapped into it. Most of the time, it's always for them to have fun, do parties or political rallies. But beyond that, it's really business. You have Rema. Rema is not even up to 22 years or 25 years. And is known across the world. And it's from Nigeria. It's from Edo State. You understand what I'm saying? So I believe it's majorly the support of government. When we talk of support of government, U.S. government doesn't 100% put money, but they support all the structures that holds entertainment. Example, National Art Theatre. Example, all those activities that gives people of lower class opportunity to be able to showcase their talent and become, successful entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Well, getting into the music industry is pretty easy, some would say. But then there are those who also believe, music producers like yourself, who will look like, wait a minute, you love music. You'd better be listening to it than producing it. Have you had to advise people like that? You like music, you want to sing, but you don't have what it takes.
Like I always tell people, you must be truthful to yourself. Number one, you must recognize you have talent. Number two, how do you actually get discovered? Has to start from your house.
Please tell him he can't sing.
I don't want to say that because I've not really assessed.
Thank you.
You know he was trying to sing.
Thank you.
No, that one was a fluke. He was trying to flex, but it's
Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah.
Let's man to man. Let someone not get into the conversation.
Okay.
We're not talking UI right now. We're talking man to man. You know what I'm saying?
But I will always be.
Benny.
Okay. Let me face you. Okay, like I was saying, number one, you must recognize yourself, not people telling you that you are talented. And not just that, there's something I always tell people, education. If you feel you're talented, or you know how to cook, or you know how to play football, you need to understand the process and all the intricacies, that everything that surrounds information about what you do. And also, if you want to be discovered, you have to be discovered in your house, within your family. They must be able to tell you, stop singing in the bathroom, or why are you singing with your nose, and stuff like that. And you must be able to accept all those critics. Like I always tell people, from your family, from your neighbors, from your street, from your church, from wherever organization, your school, you must go through that process. Somebody will tell you the truth or lies or whatever.
So it's now up to you to accept it or not.
No, you have to. I mean,
because I've had examples, Alero. Some people will bring a song into the studio and say, boss, this is the star song. This is the hit song. An example is Alarewo's number of songs. He says he called himself the crossover king at the time. So he came with a song that was actually a crossover song, lovely song and all of that. But guess which one we played the most? Yawa Go Gas.
Yeah.
Because it resonates with
because that one was more, it looked more like it. It felt more like it for a good number of broadcasters who were playing the song at the time. But sometimes people come and say, this is the song, and then you as talent manager are trying to veer the person off of the course that they have chosen for themselves. How easy is it? Has that been for you?
Okay, when it comes to that part, that aspect is called A&R, artist repertoire. And back in the days, they always use instinct. I will make an example. When I came across Don Jazzy and The Band, I've worked with them in the past, and they wanted to come to Nigeria to promote a song. The song they actually wanted to come and promote, if I sing the song for you, you will laugh. All the way, all the way, because it was sounding like Hair Guides back in the days. Those were the songs that were raining. The picture they had from London was totally different. But on their way to Lagos, they played other song to somebody called DJ Abbas. He said, let me play track 2. He played track 2 and he heard Tongolo, Tongolo. Abbas now told them there's something special, there's something different from Tongolo. I think I'll prefer you push Tongolo. And they were still skeptical. In fact, they were coming to Nigeria to shoot the video for all the way. But when they got to Nigeria, they were like, everybody is feeling this Tongolo. We played it for Bankwili, we played it for few people, and they're like, okay, let's stick to that Tongolo. And look at what Tongolo has been able to do for them. And also for the industry, it has opened up, it has given people different opportunity to be able to see things in different light, check different sounds, and here we are today. So it is instinct, but nowadays it is not just instinct. It has to also do with data and information.
Okay, let me take you back a little bit. You spoke earlier that you were in LA and you went to see a friend. and you dropped the friend's name. You went to see Kanye West.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you worked with his wife.
Not his wife.
I'm sorry, you worked with Beyonce.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Now, tell us about that experience of working with Beyonce.
Hey, well,
while you were visiting with Kanye.
Okay, one thing about that my dad always tell me is that, if you want to be good in anything you're doing, you have to be the best of the best. Know the in and out of everything you do, because you will find yourself in some places where all they thrive on is perfection, no excuse. Like coming into your studio, everything looks well, organized, well detailed, everything looks clean. You understand what I'm saying? So in their own perfect world over there, when it comes to music business, they don't want excuse. They want people that will deliver. And because of my background, especially, I always say from the church, the discipline, we don't do 5-minute song. We cry. We memorize. We learn. We'll play music instrument. We do rehearsals, 5 rehearsals within a week before we perform on Sunday. So that strive to that hard work, factor was part of it. So me being on that level with them, I have to come with my super A game. I didn't say A game. I have to come up with a super A game. As a Nigerian, you have to be there and make sure that what you're doing is not a fluke. You are not proving yourself to be a fluke. So that worked for me. And of course, me seeing them too, the way they run their stuff is an opportunity for me to also learn how they do things and try to better that.
I would also assume that you taught them a thing or two.
Well, I brought my culture. I brought my realness. Myself, I talk like this. There's no forming. I'm real. I'm like this. I remember one time, I tried to school them about our food and why it smells and stuff like that. And they're okay with it.
Tell me, you didn't...
In fact, I ordered pounded yam and egusi from one Nigerian restaurant in LA called Aduke's Kitchen. And I infected them with it.
And they ate it?
Of course. In fact, they were ordering it. Savage was there.
You'll talk about that when we return from this break. Do stay with us. Very, very interesting one that you're watching there. You featured in this video. Tell us about it.
It's my song featuring Note. Note is named Lukman. He's based in London, but he's always in Nigeria. He just left Nigeria during the Christmas time.
That's one other thing that's done a good thing in Nigeria now. Collaborations, people of like minds always coming together and all of that. Can talk on and on about that one. And of course, one of the issues that usually come out, whose song is it? I'm not so famous. I feature you, very, very famous, on my song. And then, how does that work? Whose song is it becomes an issue?
Like I always tell people, a lot of people get it twisted. They say music. There's nothing like music. It is either you are singing in your bathroom, or you are singing to your wife or girlfriend, or you are doing music business. And when it comes to music business, there's something they call structure. Music itself, if you do a song, a song is 100%. And within that 100%, everybody gets an allocation of what contribution you've done in that. And that protects people. And it comes with understanding. It's standard. You can't cut it off, including the producer or whoever you feature, or even people that contribute to it. In this case of this song, Note is based in is a Nigerian, like I said. He's based out there, and he's very popular in London. And I was privileged. It's gracious to get him on that song. And not just that he's going to be showcasing what we're trying to portray out there, but also be able to showcase him to people out here in Nigeria to know that, opportunity to be able to bring people back home. Look at this one, the MMA fighter. Now we all look forward to every of his fight. The same thing with Anthony Joshua. The same thing with Usman. The same thing with so many other Nigerians across the world. So collaboration is always very important. It exchanges, ideas and talents.
Let's talk about using music to push culture, not just pop culture.
Of course.
Now. Using Nigerian music to push African culture or Nigerian culture and making it popular to the world. When you listen to any song by South Africa, you can tell this is a South African song. You listen to an Indian song, it comes with its DNA.
Sure.
You know. But these days, it will look like they're so aganawana, so to speak, you know, in music now.
Okay.
So, is there a need for us to educate people on the need to use Nigerian music to push Nigerian culture, and by that push Nigerian music itself? Or is this something we are doing already, or something we need to begin to do?
Okay, that's a very tough question, but I'm going to try and quickly just summarize. I'll pick it like this. We're already doing it. And like I always say, it's just our opportunity to be able to creatively also do more. I think that is what is important for us. I'll take Fela as an example. Fela Adekunle Kuti, when he came back from schooling in abroad, of course, he didn't start Afrobeat that he was performing. He was also doing the music that was reigning back then, highlife, palm wine music, and of course, he was infusing the jazz that he learned out there. Yeah. And at a point, it started to metamorphose. It started, slowing the beat down, putting more of his warm element of, ons and stuff like that. And we began to see that the picture he was trying to paint with his music is something that is close to us. It's something that it portrays things that was affecting us at that time: political uprising, youth empowerment. People are getting more smarter about what happens in government, and he was talking about that activism. So he graduated from something to something. He painted a picture. At that time, that fella was doing his thing. Highlife was still strong too. Fuji was still strong too. Sikiru Ayinde, Barrister, Kollington, Wasiu.
We have 30 seconds.
Okay.
You've talked a lot about the old school generation.
And of course, this new generation, like I'm about to quickly jump in, of course, we're doing it. Don't forget, Nigeria, we have how many dialects, how many ethnic people in Nigeria. It's diverse. We're a diverse country. So you should expect that gospel music will come in different form. Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Efik, or English, or Pidgin English. And the ability to be able to put different pictures and our background into what we do is what makes us unique as Nigerians,
But creating a unique Nigerian
but we
sound.
can't have one. You can't have one dish of food. You can prepare.
You have to have fufu.
You can have fufu. Fufu have egusi, eforiro, stew, banga. So you have varieties of soup to eat your one fufu.
Okay, well, you both can continue your conversation now. Let me very quickly close this segment. Abisagbola Oluseun John is popularly known as Bankuli. I want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well,
and Bankuli brings Sunrise to a close today. Thank you for being with us, and we hope that you'll be with us again next week. I'm Alera Edu, wishing you all the best and saying, don't forget, stay safe, use your mask, wash your hands, social distance, and if you don't have to go out, please don't go out.
Amayo Makinde, I agree completely with what she said. Please keep safe. Have a wonderful weekend.